Council meeting for this day. We are going to start off with an invocation and a pledge of allegiance. Let's first start with the invocation that will be given by Mark Vaughn, pastor at Creston Hills Church of Christ. Had a great conversation with him, and thank you for being here, Mark.
Yes, sir.
Please stand.
Let us go to God in prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you so much, Father, for opening our eyes this morning to see another day. We thank you, dear God, that last night was not our last night. Father, I'm praying for every city council woman, city council man, our vice mayor, and our mayor, Father, right now, that you crown their heads, Father, wisdom and knowledge. Protect them, Father, from harm or danger, Father. Father, I'm praying for the great city of Oklahoma City, Father, that you will bless it, Father. Bless our communities, Father. Bless our children, dear God, continually. In your word, Father, you say, pray for kings and for all those who are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. Be with the ones that lead this country, Father. Be with the one that leads this state, Father. Bless us now, Father. As they go about the business of this city, Father, I'm praying that you'll give them wisdom and give them knowledge. We thank you, dear God, for being so good. Forgive us of our sins, Father. Dear God, this is our prayer. We ask in the sweet name of Jesus. Let us all say amen.
Amen. Just a second before we get started. I wanted to tell everybody that Taylor brought us everyone Girl Scout cookies, number one. And number two, she wanted me to remind everyone that they have a month and a half to purchase these to help with their fundraising. So with that, Taylor, may we do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you put that back up? Let's thank Pastor Mark Vaughn and thank Taylor Glinsman for the Pledge of Allegiance. The next thing is to call to order our business of today. And item 3 on page 1 is our first order of business, and that's from the Office of the Mayor. And we have Teacher of the Month, which is Bob Scott. And I'm going to go down and meet Bob, and we'll hear a little bit about it. Okay, Bob, to make this official, we have to read a resolution.
All right.
And then we have to vote on it.
Okay.
And we have to make sure you get voted on to have this resolution to take home with you today.
All right.
So at this time, I'll ask Amy, would you read the resolution about Bob Scott?
Whereas Bob Scott has been named Teacher of the Month for February 2025 by Oakdale Public Schools and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City. And whereas Bob has been the band director and tennis coach at Oakdale schools for over 20 years. And whereas Bob has dedicated 4 decades of his life to educating, encouraging, and inspiring children through music. And whereas bands directed by Bob have received over 50 superior ratings. And whereas Bob has developed the best middle school band program in the state. And whereas Bob has established a band program that includes special needs students in all performances and competitions. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the City of Oklahoma City that they do hereby recognize and commend Bob Scott on his selection as the February 2025 Teacher of the Month by Oakdale Public Schools and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City.
At this time, I'd entertain a motion and a second, please, for the resolution. I vote yes. It passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bob, the one thing I noticed you and I, we were visiting before, you said you've been actually at this for 50 years. So would you tell us a little bit about being at your job for 50 years and how you created the best middle school band in the state of Oklahoma?
Well, first of all, my wife may argue with the best middle school band in Oklahoma since she's a middle school teacher. So we have a little bit of friendly competition there. But I started in 1974 at Cashin, and then I went to Delcrest, and then Kanawha, and then Guyman. And after Guyman, I taught part-time. I worked for a music company and as an educational rep, and worked part-time at Jones and Crutcho for quite a while, and did a little stint at Mount St. Mary, so I've seen it all. I've been at Oakdale for 20 years, and it's the best place in the world to teach. It's the best job in the state. So, yeah, it's been great.
And tell everybody the instruments that you play.
Well, I play all the brass instruments, and I play piano and percussion. I try to play clarinet, but not as good as my wife and daughter. They always take it away from me. Get around the saxophone a little bit, but mainly brass.
Let's give Bob a big hand. Congratulations. It was really fun. Thank you, Bob. Items from the mayor. We have no items from council today, so I will now go to item 5, page 1, which is the city manager's report.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Vice Mayor. We do have one presentation on today. This is presentation of the Vision Zero Action Plan. And I'm going to introduce Jeff Butler, our planning director, who will introduce the consultant that will talk about the project. But he'll just introduce a little bit about what this project is about.
Thank you, City Manager. Jeff Butler, Planning Director. So the Vision Zero Action Plan is something that the city's been working on for about a year now. We have, it's a partnership, many departments involved, including Public Works, Police, Embark, Planning, and others. We're excited about this plan. What it's about is just very simple, improving safety in the city on our roads and street system, our sidewalks, our trails, our streets. And we have a consultant who has been working on this that's here to present to you. Kimley Horn is the lead consultant with several others. And they'll kind of take you through how we can make our city safer, how we can reduce crashes, fatalities, and serious injuries on our roadways. There's a lot of good information in the plan, and I hope that we can make some good progress on this through both our any kind of capital improvements we make in the near future, and also some of the regulations that we'll be updating to just make our city safer. So with that, I'll introduce Brian Schamberger, who is our lead consultant, and he can kind of walk through the slides, and we'll have a brief discussion and brief presentation.
Good morning, Brian. Would you state your name and address, please, for the record?
Brian Schamberger with Kimley Horn & Associates, 801 Cherry Street, Fort Worth, Texas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, Vice Mayor, council members, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. Again, this has been been working on this for about a year. Again, as Jeff mentioned, the Vision Zero Action Plan originated through a Safe Streets and Roads for All grant that the city received from Federal Highways back in the end of 2023. We've been working over the last year to develop the plan. We've also established an advisory board at the beginning of the project to help organize and develop the plan. It was made up of city council members, and thank you, council members Cooper and Peck, for being a part of that. We also had the Planning Commission involved, Traffic and Transportation Commission, and then also representatives from staff and various city departments, including the Police Department, Public Works, Planning, and then other stakeholders throughout the community. Over the last 10 months, we've been working to get to this stage where we've developed a draft plan. And today, again, as Jeff mentioned, we want to introduce the plan to you. and come back in a couple weeks, and hopefully with your consideration for approval. So, walking through the plan is organized into three parts. Really, the first part is really defining the purpose, the overall goals, the process that we went through in the development of the plan. Part two is about really defining the problems, the issues that are leading to the serious issues of traffic fatalities and serious injuries on city roadways. And keep in mind, again, Vision Zero aims to reduce and ultimately eliminate those traffic fatalities and serious injury crashes on our streets. Finally, part three is about really defining the solution. Again, those infrastructure policies and procedures and programs that are really needed to make a difference and improve safety. Let's start out in part one. There's really two chapters there where we talk about creating that vision and engaging with the community. It's important to note, hopefully you've had a chance to be involved in that process. I mean, obviously we're going directly to you, but the draft plan has been out for a couple months, and we've had a lot of great feedback. We've had almost 100 comments that have come in just on the draft plan. We've had a lot more just throughout the process of last year from the public, which has been, we'll talk more about that. And we've also received some comments from city staff and the various departments that have been involved, and we're addressing those. And again, we're excited to kind of have opportunities to engage with you right now. Vision Zero is a strategy really to eliminate all fatalities and severe injuries while increasing safe, healthy, equitable mobility for all. You can see these 5 tenets that were established through the Vision Zero program, but also that were embraced by the advisory board when developing the plan. We use these to develop the policies and infrastructure recommendations to ultimately meet the criteria as we implement the plan. The board also helped us develop this mission statement for the plan, and I think it's been our North Star as we've been going through the process. And the mission statement is: the City of Oklahoma City aims to eliminate road fatalities through strategic infrastructure enhancements, policy advocacy, and inclusive education. The city is dedicated to protecting all road users and promoting a sustainable, vibrant community. There's a lot there. We do want to kind of take a minute to discuss the importance of this mission statement as it relates to this plan, because the goal is to ultimately eliminate all traffic fatalities on the city's roadways. Okay? People go, really? We're gonna go to zero, really? A handful of cities have done it. Now, that's a very small percentage of all the plans and across the country nationwide, but it can be done, okay? We don't know if the city will ever really get to zero, but in discussions with the advisory board, really the opinion of everyone involved was that the goal needs to be zero. I mean, we could say in 10 years it'd be acceptable to have 50 people die on the roads. Seeing some heads shaking no. Maybe we be even more aggressive. We'll accept 20. The goal needs to be zero. And if the city can have a significant reduction, again, the trend has been going up. We're trying to change the trend to go down, ultimately to zero. And if we can make a significant reduction in serious injuries and fatalities, then we feel that what's happening here would be a success. So again, it was the North Star that we were really using to guide the development of the plan. So I did mention the timeline in developing the plan has been pretty fast. We're right at a year. That was really driven by the nature of the funding and the grant program that we were working under. The schedule was established to use the plan recommendations and we'll talk about this later, about some upcoming grant opportunities that are about to happen in the next few months. Another cycle is going to happen, and then that will allow the city to apply for funding to implement the recommendations of the plan and some of the ideas and concepts and strategies. So we started the plan back in February with the safety launch, and hopefully many of you were able to attend. It was a large event that we held in coordination with ACOG at the downtown library. We've had advisory board meetings. We've had public engagement activities throughout the course of the development of the plan. And now we've got a draft plan ready for you to review and hopefully approve. Speaking of that engagement, we've had both online and in-person engagement. We had 6 pop-up events throughout the year. We've had 6 public workshops scattered throughout the city, really to allow us to be in the areas where we've, based on what the data was telling us, these are kind of what areas and impacted the most. And then we've had public hearings with the Traffic and Transportation Commission, Planning Commission, and now we're talking with you. Speaking of the on engagement, we really want to highlight some of the results and, again, the benefits that we obtained from the online engagement to date. We've had over 1,800 contributions through the written surveys and online mapping site that was created. They had, as you can see on the screen, people were able to put little pins on the map and said, here's where specific problems or issues or challenges that I have related to safety. They were provide feedback, constructive feedback. It's a massive benefit to the project team in terms of, we were able to gather data from the state. We know where all the crashes and things have happened over the last 5+ years, but this provided some context. So now we're actually hearing, we knew there may have been lighting or issues or problems with certain intersections or locations. Now we were hearing people tell us exactly and confirm some of the realities of the data. So it was important, good feedback, and we were able to use this and it helped to inform the overall development of the plan. Part 2 is where we start to really understand the problem. This is where we kind of dig into the data. This is a data-driven plan, and we can really document the state of safety within the city of Oklahoma City. And so one of the safety, the data insights that that led to the city applying for the grant really was the fact that in some of the data, and there's a lot of information on this slide, but what was happening was the number of crashes and collisions were going down, but fatalities were going up, and that was a little bit alarming, concerning. We normally would see a kind of that trend would be in the same direction. So there's a lot of things related to COVID, and when people were not driving as much, people were speeding more, and we all can say this: speed kills. We know that. So we're also seeing things like a lot of crashes are happening at night. Well, why is that? Because there are poor lighting conditions. So that helped us kind of look at some of the data, understand these trends, and help understand some of the major contributing factors that are influencing crashes. So the data was really important, and we used it to develop what it is called a high injury network. So the high injury network, which is shown in all the red lines, which may seem to be a lot, that is where roadways exhibit a disproportionate number of serious injury and fatalities when compared to all the other city roadways of similar functional classification of type. And while there seems to be a lot of red on the map, that only represents 6.6% of the city's entire roadway network, okay? But this 6% accounts for 58% of all the serious injury crashes, the injury crashes, and it also includes 87% of all the fatalities, okay? This really helped inform us where to focus the plan's safety investments first. So if we were gonna figure out where we're going to isolate and spend dollars, this is where we're going to be doing it. We then used the high injury network, and we selected 7 priority corridors that were identified for further investigation by our engineering team to look and identify recommendations and possible solutions to improve safety along those specific corridors. Part 3 is really focused on designing the solution and getting to zero, which is more of the prescriptive measures of the plan itself. So it includes, we focused on identifying, traffic safety countermeasures that, when implemented along certain roadways, they can really have a significant impact on reducing serious injury and fatal crashes. We developed targeted countermeasures for the, based on the field of investigations that we did on those 7 corridors, but we also develop what we call a safety countermeasure toolbox, which includes systemic countermeasures that can be applied on the entire roadway network. Again, some of these examples like shown here, medians and pedestrian refuge islands, again, minimizing number of conflict points by introducing medians. Roundabouts, again, those are a great alternative, a lot lower speed, fewer conflict points, and things in other treatments like these for pedestrian traffic control devices like pedestrian hybrid beacons. These were all proposed countermeasures that were identified and selected based on federal highways. They have a proven safety countermeasure toolbox that they have that has data associated with all these to understand the overall impacts, because we know that they even include the number of expected crash reductions based on once these are implemented. So each of these can be used to apply throughout the network and really help to inform the overall development of the plan. So the plan also includes a policy section with action items and strategies based on the safe system approach. Okay, the safe system approach is founded on these 5 pillars of safety, which are safer people, safer roads, safer speeds, safer vehicles, and post-crash care. So each of the action items were broken down by emphasis area, and then we assigned a relative time frame, in a sense, what for implementation, either short, medium, long term, something less than 2 years, between 2 and 5, greater than 5 years. So we assigned time frames. We also identified implementation partners, like is it ODOT, is it city completely, is it partnerships with the regions? And then we looked at potential funding sources for any of these strategies that were identified in terms of things like ongoing maintenance, partnering again with like ACOG for grants, the GeoBond projects that's coming up. Now we can kind of identify opportunities within that. And then we're about to submit applications for the SS4A implementation grants. So there's all these options to consider. The city is making changes that aren't dependent on implementation funding. We're about to start looking at updates to your standards and design standards. How can we introduce safety more within those standards? Integration within existing maintenance programs. All these things don't cost any, those aren't new dollars, okay? We also want to reiterate that the plan acknowledges that infrastructure can't fix all of the problems. It's going to really rely on other things such as education enforcement to make a difference. And then supplementing the planning grants, there are some supplemental planning grants that are available that will allow the city to dig into some of these other things, other crashes that may be occurring that weren't addressed as part of those initial investigations. And we recognize, again, that many of these interventions and these actions that if you look at them just in isolation, they may have small impacts, okay? But it's as they're done collectively within, again, underneath all these 5 pillars, it's the combined effect that will have a significant impact on reducing traffic safety throughout the city. We're implementing a high injury network and interactive crash dashboard on the city's website. This will allow staff and anyone who's interested to be able to see where the crashes are occurring and also to track progress over time. Again, we want to be able to see as these strategies and actions are implemented, we want to see that trend going down, the number of crashes to be reduced. So, next steps. We have a draft plan available for your feedback. We're having conversations, had some last week, going to have some today, We want to, again, once we get your feedback, we want to come back to you within the next 2 weeks for your consideration and approval. We'll then have the plan available. Again, the goal is to use this as for upcoming grant application with the feds that are opening up in March, and then we'll have applications to do in May. So this is very timely, and again, your consideration is important. So we appreciate any feedback. I want to thank you for your time for this morning.
Brian, great presentation. I love the Vision Zero theme. Do any members of the council have any questions or comments of Brian at this time?
One quick thing before we get to the questions. Thank you very much for the presentation and the partnership. Could you slide back one slide? I just want to make one clarification. It says city county consideration on the slide. It's city council consideration. So it's back to us. So that was just an error we made on the slide. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Great. Any questions or comments? Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
City Manager, do we have anything under your reports?
That's all that we have today. We do have the claims and payroll, no presentation obviously on that, but it's available on okc.gov, and that's all that I have.
We'll now move on to agenda item 6, which is the Journal of Council Proceedings. There are 2 items on that we can take with one motion, please. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. It passes. We now find ourselves at request for uncontested continuances. I know we've had a request for item 11N. City Manager?
Yes. Starting on page 12, item 11B, PUD 2039, this application has been withdrawn. On page 14, 11P1, unsecured structures, all these are stricken from the agenda. Item A, 108 East California Avenue, the owner is secured. Item F, 1512 North McKinley Avenue, the owner is secured. Item H, 2129 Northeast 13th Street, the owner is secured. Continuing on page 15, item 11Q1, abandoned buildings. We have only one item there, item D, 2129 Northeast 13th Street, the owner is secured.
And what was the first item again? I did not catch that. Page
It was
12?
page 12, item 11B,
Thank you.
and that's withdrawn. Yes.
Thank you. We now find ourselves at item 8, which is revocable permits and events. We do have several people. We have 3 revocable permits today, and we have several people that have signed up to speak. The first one is Brian Pittman. He's speaking on the St. Patrick's Day block party at McNeely's. How's it going, Brian?
Good, thank you. How are you? My name is Brian Pittman, live at 2740 Northwest 21st. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Ms. Hammond. So I'm with McNally's. We're up around 10th and Walker is our location. We are seeking to have, we're doing our annual St. Patrick's Day celebration. This is going to be our 16th year of doing this event and stuff. St. Patrick's Day falls on a Monday this year, so we're actually going to be doing it for 3 days for the first time. So we'll be doing it Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, having the same footprint and stuff, everything, just trying to encompass a little more because it's on that Monday itself there for it. We're just seeking your approval so we can actually close off Walker just next to our location, just on the east side of the McNally's pub, and have some fun and food and drinks outside.
Is it a lot of work to set up and break down?
Yes, head's going crazy. I don't know. When we're going to sleep, I don't know, but.
Ward 6, please.
Well, I'm happy to move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. It passes. Congratulations.
Thank you to everybody. You have a great, safe week tomorrow also.
Thank you. Next is item 8B, which is a revocable right-of-way use permit for the Red Coyote Lucky Coyote 5K. We have John Oslin here. John, we never get to see you. How you doing?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for letting us come in and speak with you this morning. The Lucky Coyote 5K is our second race of our 2025 season and our St. Patrick's Day run. This event has been in Edmond the last several years, but we're very excited to bring it to Midtown this year and partner with McNally's and Fassler Hall. We're excited to, it is the culmination of our 5K training program that we work in the spring in the lead up to the Memorial Marathon. This event, our partner beneficiary for this event is also Cleats for Kids of Oklahoma. So again, we're looking forward to celebrating St. Patrick's Day in Midtown on Sunday and invite all of you guys to join us.
Thank you very much. Ward 6, please.
I'll move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Passes, John. Thanks.
Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
We now find ourselves at item 8C, which is a revocable right-of-way use permit for the Stockyards St. Patrick's Day Parade. And we have Debbie Harrison here. Hi, Debbie.
Good morning. Seems like St. Pat's is the theme for this morning. So today we're here to get your approval of the annual Stockyard City St. Patrick's Day Parade. We plan on holding it on Saturday, March 15th at 10 a.m. The streets will be blocked for the parade. The parade will start at Penn and Exchange and go down Exchange to Agnew and then Agnew to Southwest 15th Street. We have McTaggart's Irish Dancers. They're going to be performing at Rodeo Cinema following the parade, and lots of really fun activities for the kids to do. And our Grand Marshal for the parade this year, again in the whole theme, is Elliot Nelson, the CEO of McNally's Group. So we're excited about that.
Once again, Ward 6.
Well, it's always a very fun parade, so I'm happy to move for approval.
We've got a motion and a second. Please vote. It passes. Good luck with your event.
Thank you.
We now will recess the council meeting and convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority, where we have items A through K. I think we may have a presentation today, so can you help me out, Craig?
Yes, on item D, we have a quick presentation here. Shad Meldrum, our IT director. This is really an administrative change that we're requesting, but it's a policy change, so it's going to appear both on the MFA docket, but it'll appear later on in the items for individual consideration from council. So just wanted to give a quick update on what we're asking for here.
Shad Meldrum, IT director. Yes, this is item D, and there's a companion item, which is 11S, that goes with this. There's a resolution for your consideration. It'll allow the IT director to sign vendor statements of work, change orders, and other administrative forms that are already consistent with council-approved and executed technology-related pricing agreements, master agreements, professional services contracts. I would note a lot of times vendors look at POs in lieu of signatures, but sometimes vendors will not, so this gives that authority to be able to sign some of those. Especially related to professional services, the vendor signature forms are generally for the purpose of establishing and detailing statements of work, objectives, deliverables, schedules, success criteria, and payment details. The last thing I'll note on this is in every case, these forms cannot be signed without approval of the municipal counselor's office and the chief financial officer and the purchasing agent, and be consistent with city purchasing policies. Anybody have any questions? Or?
Thanks, Chad.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Any council members have any questions, comments about any of the other items? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 11 items found at A through K. We have a motion and a second. It passes. Thank you. We'll now adjourn the OCMFA and convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority, where we find 6 items today. I think we have a presentation here too.
Yes, we'll have a quick presentation, item C. This is on the demolition of the Cox Center, Prairie Surf Media. And David Todd, our MAPS director, will come in and give us a presentation here, or introduce the presentation, just so that you know what's happening with this. It'll be a little bit disruptive for a while, and wanted David to be able to have an opportunity to give an update.
Right. Good morning. David Todd, MAPS Program Manager. I'm really happy to bring you this morning this first major milestone in our path to build the new arena. This is about the demolition of the former Cox Convention Center, and it's not just as simple as going out and knocking this thing down. There's a lot of considerations that come into play here. So we have Rob O'Keefe here. He's with our partners at TVS, and he's got a short presentation to go through what's in those plans. So I'd like to turn it over to Rob.
Morning. Pleasure to be here. Again, my name is Robert O'Keefe. I work for TVS on behalf of our partners, Manica Architecture, as well. I am the architect of record, and I am registered in the state of Oklahoma. I'm going to walk you through the scope of the demo package today. We issued a bid package that represents about 30 technical drawings and a full specification manual. Just a little bit of context on what the scope is. The site extents does bridge the entire block, so Oklahoma Boulevard to the east, Ron Newark to the west, Sheridan to the north, and Reno to the south. The building proper will be demolished in its entirety. That's the blue line, and it's worth noting too, some of you may or may not know there is a parking deck that is underground, and that's about 12 feet underground. So that's the yellow line represents the parking deck, and that does extend beyond the building proper. Some notable aspects of the project, there is some complexity to it. We will work with the contractor to keep intact the 2 rail car stops on the north and the south. There is a underground pedestrian tunnel. That's item number 2. The intent there is to cap it off temporarily for the demo construction, and then it will be reopened through new construction. There is a overhead pedestrian bridge that links up to the Wyndham. That will be demolished in its entirety, and the gap that will be left in the hotel will be patched to match the existing facade. Number 4 designates some trees that we are working to preserve. As you note, there are a lot of trees over the parking deck. Those will obviously need to be removed, but we are trying to look to save some trees on the northeast corner. And then some items to be salvaged. We will work with the contractor to salvage the right-of-way items on there. There are some additional architectural elements that will be saved as well. Lastly, traffic. We will work with the contractor to minimize any traffic impacts. We have identified, in order to keep it organized, we identified a single entrance, construction entrance to the west and a single construction exit to the east. That should minimize any impacts to the overall traffic. As noted, the extent of the parking deck does get quite close to the right-of-way on the west and south ends, so there may or may not need to be some lane closures that are temporary. We again will work with the contractor to minimize that impact, but we don't believe there will be any substantial impacts to the overall traffic. Schedule, just walk through this real quick. Pre-bid conference is scheduled for February 20th. The demolition bid opening will happen on March 5th. We will then give a recommendation to council on March 25th, and we will give the contractor notice to proceed on the 26th. The entire construction is intended to be 6 months long, so completion at September 30th. And that's the extent of my presentation.
I know there's a lot of traffic around 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. because I drive it every day. Any special precautions being taken during those time periods?
I was actually meant to mention that we will try to work with the contractor to minimize that disruption in terms of limiting the time duration of construction to limit both noise and dust. So we believe that will also minimize the traffic concerns there as well. And then I also meant to mention that we will try to preserve the right-of-way sidewalks on the perimeter as well, but again, we'll need to work with the contractor to see what's possible there.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions about the demolition? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve items A through F. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. I voted, it's not me. Lee, do you want to just give us a verbal? There we go. There we go. There we go. We got it. It passes. We'll now adjourn the OCPPA and reconvene the council meeting where we find ourselves at item 9, which is the consent docket. Craig, it's my understanding that we're going to have 3 presentations. Can you tell us about those?
Yes, we'll have, pardon me, we'll have a presentation on items AY and AZ, and then we've got a scheduled presentation on item BK.
Good. BK. Do any of the council members have questions, comments, the need for a separate vote on any of the items found on the consent docket? There being none, let's go to the...
On the consent docket, I'd like to just pull out R for some questions.
Yeah.
R's and Robert.
I just noticed that. We have 2 speakers here.
Okay.
Also, Mr. Councilman Cooper. All right, so why don't we do this? Let's start with R. And we have 2 speakers. First is Jeff Trevelyan. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Hi, Jeff.
Hello.
Would you state your full name and address, please, for the record?
Sure. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jeff Trevelyan. I live at 511 North Fonshill Avenue. That's about 8 minutes east of here. And I've lived there for 16 years. I could have, that is the JFK neighborhood, just east of downtown. And when I had built my new construction there, I went and checked it out, on a weekly basis. It's a very, very quiet place. I never noticed anything, but after I moved in, we started to notice, you can't not notice it, but there are explosions that rock our house. And after talking to my neighbors about it, we have come and dealt with and tried to work with the city and different organizations to address these explosions that we determined and were determined to be explosions from a recycling plant that is less than a quarter of a mile away from our neighborhood. And so we've dealt with that issue over the years. We've been told that that area is zoned industrial and there's not a lot that can be done. The city has worked with us with different departments to deal with the time that they can actually operate. And then there's other industries over there that I believe that are impeding development of the area. So the area over the past 15 years has developed tremendously. There has been a lot of investment. It is just east of the Innovation District, and for the Planning Commission to approve another recycling plant to begin to crush cars is totally, it's antithetical to the development of this area. And I think it's going to impede the further development. And many times we come to the city council meetings to tell you guys what we don't want. But I want to tell you also what we do want. We want everything that desirable neighborhoods desire in their neighborhoods. Excuse me? Time's up.
You have 30 seconds.
Oh, 30 seconds. Well, we want all those things. We want clean green spaces, development, conveniences. And so we would like you to vote and deny that item R when it comes up. And we would implore you just to deny moving forward on that issue. Thank you.
Okay. And you understand it's just being introduced today?
I do.
Okay, all right.
So, so whatever procedural method to either send that back or kill it, that's what we want. Thank you.
Lee, we next have Dinavetta Davis that would like to speak.
Good morning. My name is Dinavetta Davis, 721 North Kellum. Oklahoma City 73117. So I have a letter that I'd like to share with you. So I'm here today representing the JFK neighborhood as president and also the Northeast Oklahoma City Neighborhood Coalition. We have 18 neighborhoods represented in the coalition. And so we are here to oppose. We know that it's not on the docket today for voting, but we want to go on record to let you know that we oppose SPUD 592, the expansion of standard iron and metal to be allowed to crush cars. A second recycling plant to crush cars would be devastating to our neighborhood. We are still, after 50 years, we're still trying to rebuild, and we still have a long way to go. And so these explosions, if you haven't experienced them, or maybe if you're a veteran, you maybe understand what it feels like, a war zone. But these explosions are just devastating to our neighborhood and to our property. And so just to kind of give you an idea about the numbers, we know that the Rockenbach placed a wall, a noise barrier wall in 2022 to help buffer the noise and the vibrations. But we do logging, and so we haven't been able to report these complaints to the Action Center since 2018. So we just log it ourselves and use it as we need it. So just to give you an idea on these numbers. So in 2022, when the noise barrier was installed, there were 737 explosions. And then ongoing air quality issues, smoke, dust, sulfur odor from Haskell Lemon, smoke and constant humming from Citco, and then fog over our neighborhood. In 2023, 23 explosions, 2 industrial fires, and then the air quality issues that I just mentioned. In 2024, 34 explosions, 2 industrial fires, numerous complaints to DEQ.
30 seconds remaining.
And in 2025, already, there have been 7 explosions and 3 complaints to DEQ. So we ask that you, when it comes up to a vote, or whatever you decide to do today, if anything, that you oppose this and support our neighborhood. We need your help. And so we ask that you either relocate these industries. I know that's a whole big issue, but we would appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Lee, I was just going to leave that on the consent docket since no one.
Yeah, I just knew we had some who wanted to speak on the item, but I do want to ask the representative who's here. Mr. Box, hello.
Hi.
Can you tell us exactly where this property is located?
Sure. You might have David Box, 525 Northwest 11th Street. Do you have the? So it's along Reno, and to clear up some of the confusion, this item is a special permit for the standard site. It is not a new operation. My client is a buyer of the facility, and the desire is to put a special permit in place to take the place of what exists now. So it's not an additional facility, it's simply a new buyer coming in, and right now, Standard operates under a legally non-conforming zoning classification. My client needs the ability to have it legal conforming. So in order to do that, we have to go through the special permit process. There are other operators that exist. The reference to the wall, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. I think Dershberg is the operator to the east of the site my client is buying. They are the ones that installed the concrete wall due to the explosions that were happening at their site. My site is just to the west of that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent docket.
Vice Mayor?
Yes?
Hi, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
All right. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm good.
Okay. So I pulled up a map of this area, and I know this topic has come up previously, but when I pulled up a map on Google Maps here from First Americans Museum to Bricktown, because I drive Reno to, okay, oh, wonderful. So I drive Reno to Midwest City to go visit my mother. Like, that's my route. I try and avoid interstates. So I take this route, and I guess what I would like to learn from city leadership is as follows. One, if you look here, so we have the development of the First American Museum, right? And you have the trail along the river there. In my mind then, that means that Reno Avenue needs to be a very safe pedestrian corridor to access that trail, to access O'Connor, to access the First Americans Museum. That's one thing. Secondly, there is the pedestrian bridge we are building across the river. We just met, council members did, with our public works director to talk about this bridge and the area around it. If you look closely at this map, on that note, that means, in my mind, Reno needs to be pedestrian friendly to connect the people to that bridge. Number 3, maps 4 again. We're, as you recall, redeveloping the Motel 6 that is right there on Reno. That too, and that's a Maps 4 project for folk who are in need of affordable, attainable housing, right? In my mind, that too means that Reno needs to be a pedestrian corridor so that the residents who are living there have safe access to it. Next, you already heard JFK neighborhood. What is their safe pedestrian access along Reno, either to O'Connor, to the First Americans Museum, and then to the east here to Bricktown? Like, arguably, someone should be able to use this stretch here. You see Bass Pro Shop right there, and then you see the First Americans Boulevard here at Reno and that intersection. People should be able to safely, back and forth, east to west, walk that corridor. When we put developments like this that are strong, heavy industrial, think about your experience walking through and alongside that. Do you feel safe? What is your quality of air? Would you walk your children? What if you were in a wheelchair or a different mobility device that Vision Zero just talked about earlier? We have over 1,000 pedestrian crashes in this city from 2017 to 2031. And our most vulnerable, the children, people in mobility devices, how are they navigating Reno Avenue from Bricktown, which is a crown jewel of our state, let alone our city? How are they accessing these neighborhoods alongside there? Same with our tourists who stay at our hotels in Bricktown and downtown. They should be able to safely navigate Reno. And right now, the sort of development that we have allowed to occur around here, I think, is impeding it. And going back to how I began my comments, I think from city leadership, it behooves us to think about, whether it's in our upcoming bond or seeking grants, we need to think about the pedestrian infrastructure all up and down this corridor to connect to several Maps 4 investments. I will repeat again, the bridge, the housing, to say nothing of not Maps 4, but O'Connor and the First Americans Museum. Not even to mention Crooked Oak Schools right around the corner. So, oh, and then finally, if you look at this map, you have the nearly impenetrable access to the Boathouse District by anything other than a car. If you look at this Dr. Seuss type interstate Whoville thing that's happening here, the only way you're getting to the Boathouse District, if you were staying in a hotel in Bricktown, is by a car. So if you flew here from Fort Worth, Fayetteville, wherever, and your hotel is here, you have to rent a car to get over there. You should be able to walk safely to something that close. You should be able to take your dog. There's a place called Bark right there. You should be able to access that. And so right now, people cannot access the Boathouse District by foot or by bike. They cannot access this corridor safely, and their lives are literally in danger, as you saw from the report in Vision Zero. So I just wanted to give that much bigger context. I will also note a lot of this used to be middle-class black housing all north up there before we built I-235 right through historic black neighborhoods. I say that during Black History Month. We can do better than what we are doing right now. And I'd like to know, what is our plan for sidewalks or trails or street lights and trees to make this safe access from Bricktown to First Americans? I'm so proud of the things I just said, Bricktown and First Americans, but what are we doing to connect people to it by foot and bike and safely?
Yeah, certainly something that we can look at and get back with you on. Not anything that I have here today, but we can have conversations about it and provide some information on that. I think too, interesting to see how we look at that with the Bike Walk plan and what we have with that. So I think there's a lot of interesting questions on that as far as what we do with that corridor and how we address that.
I think that's great. Thank you, City Manager. And we don't have to have the answers today, but I do think this neighborhood and some of the people who spoke, I think it would help us to have some of those answers heading into when this is coming back to council. That'd be my guidance, but I don't know if the councilman has any other guidance from there. It's your ward. So thanks for letting me hang out there for a second.
Well, just let me say this. All of what you said is absolutely on target. This is coming up for final approval. So, but the challenges, of course, is what we want that area to become. Okay, when it was zoned 40 years ago. And 40 years ago, city leadership had no idea of what this would become and the opportunities that would be available. And so the real challenge is moving forward and what that looks like for our city. Given many of the things that you've already said. So it'll come up, but today we want to move for final approval.
Is that really what we want to do? I mean, this is being introduced, right?
It's going to be introduced today.
Do we have to introduce it to do something to it, or can we send it back to planning?
Today, we need to introduce it.
Okay.
Yep.
What, you were going to say something?
If you want to send it back to planning when it gets on for final hearing, but he says no, of course, but the thing about it is right now, they haven't had a hearing yet before council. So you really can't deny it today because that would essentially be denying their application without a hearing. You can't do that. So the thing to do is to introduce it and bring it back at final hearing.
That's great. I was just trying to save time if we could, but good.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, James, for your comments. We have 3 presentations, the first one beginning at AY, then AZ, and BK, and I'm going to turn that over to you, City Manager.
Yes, Brent Bryant, our Chief Financial Officer, gives a quick presentation on these items on the 2025 GO bond sale.
Good morning, Brent Bryant, Chief Financial Officer. Today we're bringing you the 8th bond issuance from our 2017 GO bond authorization that was approved by the voters of Oklahoma City in 2017. It totals $160 million. That is our largest GO bond that we've ever done in one single time. And last year we issued about $120.5 million in bonds. We'll go to the next slide. The majority of this is for streets, the majority of our program is for streets. After we issue these bonds and fund $127 million worth of streets, we'll have a little less than $1 million of our original authorization for the next year. So we're utilizing pretty much all of that. And we go back to that one, I guess, please. And then as you can just see, we're closing out many of the other ones with the exception of the police, fire, and the drainage utilities. Those are the drainage fund. or the drainage system. That's the last one. Those are ones that we'll spend the majority of the money in next year. The timeline is today we got two items before you. One's to authorize the sale of the bonds, and the other one is to introduce the ordinance. Just to remind all of you, when we come back to you on the 25th of March, we have to sell the bond. We sell the bonds on that day, and we'll need to sell them with an emergency on the ordinance. So I need 7 of you here, please, to do that. I think I ask you every year to do that. So please be here on the 25th of March. But we're meeting with our Standard & Poor's and Moody's February 25th to get our bond ratings, and we feel very comfortable that we can retain our AAA bond rating there on that. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks,
Brian. Our next presentation is on item BK, and David Todd, our MAPS director, will introduce this item.
Good morning again, David Todd, MAPS Program Manager. Very happy to be bringing you final plans to put out to bid for the Palomar project. It was, part of the MAPS 4 project. I want to point out one thing that you'll see in this presentation that the architect is going to show you is the funding. In this time of unprecedented inflation and uncertainty with costs, we've done a lot of things to try and keep the project within budget, but we still struggle for that. So I want to remind you that when the additional $100 million was allocated to the MAPS program and it was distributed among the projects, Palomar received roughly $4 million of capital money, and they chose voluntarily to put that into the investment fund to help them with operations. What we're proposing right now in order to fund this project and get it on the street and get some bids on it is that $2 million of that be brought back into the capital fund to fund this. But what I'd also like to propose is that we, much like the Coliseum, borrow money from the main fund of the MAPS funds, the money that's in there, just borrow it, pledged against that $2 million during construction, so that $2 million can remain in the investment fund and can still earn interest.
And David, I want to just clarify something. When he says borrow, that's more really of a practical term of how we're using cash flow. There's no borrowing, like formal borrowing or financing associated with the projects. Just to clarify that it's just using cash flow within the MAPS program that we have right now, not pulling that money out until we absolutely have to. So I just wanted to clarify that. Sorry.
Correct. So that money can continue to earn interest. At the time when the project is finished, then that money will be pulled out of the investment fund and used for the project. With the intent, understanding that we're about 3.2% over projections right now, which equates to about $32 million, with the intent at that time to start asking for excess collections and or interest, much like we did in MAPS 3, where we distributed that among the projects. So Dan Hayes from AHMM is here to go through the project.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me today. I'm delighted to present to you the final plans and specifications for the Family Justice Centre, which is otherwise known as Palomar. It's been a couple of years since I've been here to present Task 1, so we're delighted to finally make it. This is Midtown. You can see the existing Palomar building there on the corner of Hudson and 11th Street. And the proposed site for the new building is directly opposite where the dog park used to be, in that red box shown there between 11th Street, Hudson, and Park Place to the south. On timeline, we're here today to present the final plans. Hopefully, if it goes well, we'll go straight out to bid. Bids will be received back in the beginning of March, and then hopefully we'll be back here again in mid-April, beginning of April, mid-April, to present the final figure for the construction, and if approved, we'll move into construction, due to be completed on the 11th of February, 2027. The building's a 3-story building. It's just under 72,000 square feet. The first floor of the building is predominantly client spaces, medical services, a cafe space. On the second floor, there are partnering offices and Palomar offices. And then the third floor is mainly a large community room and therapy rooms as well. So the plan's quite hard to understand because there's quite a lot going on here, but I'll just to orientate people, the existing Palomar building is down here to the bottom right-hand side of the page. On Hudson, 11th Street is to the right-hand side, and Park Place is to the left. So what we've tried to do with this plan is organize the spaces that can address the public around the perimeter of the building, so we create an active street frontage all the way around and open ourselves up to Midtown. And then the private spaces where clients spend a lot of their time are tucked away at the back of the building, very protected and concealed, and they all face out towards a courtyard space in the center. One of the things we wanted to do from day one was make sure that every single client space had access to natural light and access to nature, because that really does improve people's well-being and helps the recovery process. So the entry to the building, if you're a client or user of the facility, is where the pink arrow is off Hudson. You come into a protected lobby space, and then if admitted to the building, you pass a secure line into a corridor space that you can see there, which is the white space, with 2 living room areas off it where people can meet in groups or individually. And around those 2 living room spaces are the client intake rooms. This is where clients can spend just a couple of hours or a full day. But all of those spaces, as I said, have direct access out to that courtyard space. We also have the orange space there is a pet area, so clients can bring their pets with them. There's a client store where clients can come and get essentials to keep living their lives as they receive therapy and treatment. And then the yellow area that you see to the top right-hand side, that's a children's sanctuary with a direct access out to an outdoor play area. The pink is forensic medical. If you're a victim of a sexual assault, this is where you would come to be examined. And then the green area to the front there is Variety Care, a partner of Palomar's to provide medical services as well. And then on the corner in the bottom left here is a community cafe, so this will be open to the community. It faces out towards Midtown and addresses the street, so anyone can use that facility as well. And then tucked behind there is a community room as well, linked to that cafe space. Moving up to the second floor, this is, as I mentioned, the office space for all the partners and Palomar's own staff as well. I won't go through all the partners, but you can see them listed there on the left-hand side. The idea of this space is a mixture of open office space and cellular office space, but the idea is that there's a central hub in the middle there with a break room that's hoped to bring people together and help collaboration between those different services. Then moving up to the third floor, as you can see right now, this is proposed to be just built out as a white box. I'll come onto that in more detail, but due to budget constraints. But this area will have a large community room and the therapy spaces and some general workspace as well. And here's some images of what the building will look like. So this is the main lobby space as you come in off the street. The reception's there on your right with a waiting room on the left, and then the secure entry point in the distance there with the glass doors. These are these living room areas, as I mentioned earlier, and around there, these main sort of hubs are the client intake rooms. The idea is that they are meant to feel like a living room, so they're very domestic in scale and don't feel institutional at all, and provide different spaces for people in different crises. This is the kids' play space, so this is a taller, brighter, double-height space, hopefully with a slide in the middle of it that also opens out to an outdoor play area. This is moving up to the second floor, so this is the break area I was talking about earlier, a collaboration space with a large outdoor terrace with views of the city. And this is what the building will look like from the outside. So color theory has been very important to how we've designed the interior of the building, and that's reflected on the outside of the building as well. So the first floor is built of bricks, a robust, hard-working material, but also is white and bright and reflects sort of safety, new beginnings, and cleanliness. And then there's 3 colored bands as you move up, representing peace and healing, tranquility and growth, rebirth and renewal on the top floor there, on the 3rd floor. And that's what it will look like. That's what it looks like from the corners of the junction of Hudson and 11th Street. Again, that's another view of the main entry point in the center of the building. And then just looking at the cost estimate, so the original budget for this building was $26 million. As David mentioned, we're proposing to take $2 million from the endowment trust, which gives a revised project budget of $28 million. When you add up the fees, contingency, things like that, and also some of the site costs we've had to include with regards to relocating sewers, COX, OG&E, the estimate has come in at just under 28 million. The alternates, as I mentioned, which aren't included in that base bid, are listed here to the right, and I'll talk through those in a little bit more detail. But the main one is the 3rd floor fit out. As you saw, we're proposing that would be a white box space with a cost of about 2.3 million to fit that out at a later date. The cafe on the 1st floor, again, is not included in the base bid. Some security items which we hope will be provided by the police department. Furniture that's obviously, if we haven't built the space on the 3rd floor, we don't need to provide the furniture for it as well, so that space can come out. The police department furniture, they will be providing that themselves, but we've just brought that out as an alternate. The kids' play equipment is also as an alternate, and some technical items, that's mainly TVs for meeting rooms and other technical equipment like that. And the cost of those alternates comes to about 5.4 million. So just in a bit more detail, what those alternates are. What we're calling white box, which we've listed the definition here on the left, but that is exposed concrete, unfinished floors. Gyp walls, so the external walls will obviously be there, but they'll just be finished with tape and gypped up. Exposed concrete deck, so no ceilings included. The mechanical and plumbing will be there to be connected into, but not fitted out in the space, and temporary lighting will be provided to meet code. So that includes the white box of the cafe. The security items that I mentioned that I believe the police department will be providing are a security film across the front, a bulletproof shield across the reception area, and a shield below the reception desk as well. As an alternate, we have the play equipment, the external play equipment. Moving up to the 2nd floor, the furniture from the police department will be provided by themselves. And then the 3rd floor, this is obviously the big one. These spaces will not be provided as part of the base bid, but included as an alternate. And hopefully, if all goes well, we can use the contingency money to pay for the fit out of these spaces. And that's the presentation for today.
Dan, thanks for the presentation. We really look forward to February 11th, 2027, when the construction's complete and the building's open. A lot of people have worked really hard to make this become a reality, and we want to thank you for being a part of that. Any questions from council?
Yeah, I wanted real quickly to tell David Todd how much I appreciate him working on this and making sure that we came up with a way to kind of work the funding around on this thing to get it done. I've heard of other projects that supposedly tripled in value or cost, and ours haven't tripled, but they are tight. Yeah. And this is one project that I personally just feel like is very important that we get it done and get it done in the correct way. So I appreciate all of city staff and everyone working to make sure we can get that done.
Me too.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
I have a couple of quick questions. As this facility functions, about how many people are we saying on a daily basis because I'm asking that because my question really is about looking at the actual restroom space. How many stalls are in the plan?
I'll go back, if I can, go back to that plan. I'm not sure I can. Go to the floor below. Oh, yeah. So these are the main restrooms that are provided for the users of the building. There's also
on this floor and then the same area upstairs as well. So I'm at the plumbing piece makes sense, but
correct. There's also a number of other restrooms that are dotted throughout the facility. So we have some down here that operate for the lobby space. All of the forensic medical have their own restrooms as well. So there's lots of restrooms dotted around. We have worked it out to code, and that's all been approved.
I didn't see those identified with the colors, so that's why I was asking the particular question.
Sure.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you for your presentation and work. Would you go back to the thank you slide? Okay. I think I'm understanding. I did watch the Maps for Citizens Advisory Board discussion around our funding plan, but I just want to clarify, if I'm understanding at least presently, this image right here with this cafe, that's not happening, correct? Like, that is part of an alternative. Like, what is our plan here? Because first of all, it's hard to offer a critique when one is the child of domestic violence, right? When this is, to Councilman Stone's observations, one of the most, if not the most important project in MAPS 4. I wish more of this had been there when my family experienced what we did. Let me just preface that. But then secondly, it's actually physically hard to talk on this topic. At the same time, my understanding is the services we're providing within this building, while very important, the design too is very important. So this cafe build out here, if I'm understanding correctly, currently we are not planning to build that? Or what is the exact, can you walk us through that? Because that seems missing right now in terms of funding, and I'd like to better understand that alternatives funding and what Director Todd is describing to us as our plan to actually make this rendering a reality.
Sure. So the base bid that we are going out on that comes in just under budget of the 28 million that I spoke earlier. So it would include the space for the cafe.
The base bid would.
It includes the space. So it includes the windows and no internal walls, no kitchen fit out. Not a functional space for a cafe, but it includes the area, so it can be fitted out at a later date. And the same with the third floor, which is the community room, which is this floor. This will all be provided. It's all built. The space is built. It's just the interior walls are not constructed, so it can't be used on day one as it would be intended. The hope is that either the project comes back below budget, and we can include some of these items in the base bid, or if we don't use, we have a contingency currently that sits around 2.3 million. So that's obviously for unforeseen problems during the construction process. If that isn't used, and we hope it's not, potentially we can include some of these items into the base bid. Does that make sense?
Yes and no. I am following the process. I guess my confusion is, if I heard the Citizens Advisory Board discussion correctly, that once we know if we have excess sales tax collections in MAPS 4, but that won't be until 2028, is that right, City Manager?
Right.
Okay, so then at that time, correct me if I'm wrong, Director Todd proposed what, somewhere now putting forward a resolution that, no, we're not going that route.
No.
Okay? So then in 2028, so this opens in 2027, it would open as essentially a white box. You wouldn't have anything here built out on the ground level nor in the third.
No. The facility will be built out.
The facility?
Just the cafe, right?
Yeah.
Just the cafe is the white box.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm sorry.
No, yeah, thanks.
Okay.
But same too for that third floor.
Yes, that's correct.
So are we hoping that with the excess sales tax collections, should there be excess sales tax collections, that we're going to be able to go in and finish out this cafe in the third floor?
That's something that we would have to evaluate, and that's why, first of all, I tell people all the time, the fact that we're ahead of target right now, excess collections don't exist in something like this until we're finished, because we know things can change in the economy. When we get to the end, there will be several projects that are going to have this same experience, that are going to have to be valued, engineered back, and I think at that time, then you could make a decision. That's why I don't want to make these decisions one-off on this case with potential excess funds, is when we get to that point, there'll be several projects, and that way we're not taking any one of them individually in a vacuum. So the hope would be that we would have funding that we could then put back to projects. This would be built out in a way that everything would be ready to go if there weren't other solutions that we identified prior to that time where that could be built out at that time.
I will say all of this stage of the process makes me very nervous, because I just think that the entirety of the space as originally envisioned contributes to that healing for the children and the survivors of domestic violence. But making sure that there's that space, I don't know. I'm glad we're, I guess, preserving the space for it. I just would like to see it as originally intended to be done. So I don't, go ahead, Councilman. Sure. Well, I mean, so Councilman was talking about, leaving it open for a vendor to come in and do it. But, I mean, are we starting those conversations? I mean, I guess the first step would see if this comes in under budget, right? Look, this is just a very important project to me, and I just worry about having just this vacant space that people are walking by and not activated, especially for people who are visiting loved ones or just working in this building, to have this moment to be able to go down and enjoy a cup of coffee with their neighbors. So.
I know a guy who does coffee. We can talk.
Well, I'm serious. I just have concerns. This is a very important project.
Dan, thank you. I almost forgot. I want to thank Kim Funk and Tricia Everest for being here today with Palomar. I call them our partners because we work well together, and this has been a big project, and I'm really excited that the bids are about to go out. So thank you for being here today. There it is. Okay, that concludes all the presentations that we have today, and so now I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent docket at this time, please. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. It passes. We now find ourselves at page 11 of the agenda, item 10, the concurrence docket. There are 9 items on the concurrence docket today that we can take with one vote, if that's the position of the council. Please cast your vote.
There's an item on this one about housing.
Yes.
Could we hear a little bit about that?
Yes. You're talking about item?
I think it's G.
G, yes. Kenny Soodle, he's the president of the Alliance for Economic Development, our partner in this project. This is actually a project, on Concurrence has been approved by another body. This one is approved by the Economic Development Trust. I'll let Kenny just outline the changes being proposed here.
And what we're talking about here is the Mount Vernon Affordable Housing Project.
Correct, item G.
10G.
Thanks, Vice Mayor.
Thanks.
So this was actually an older affordable housing deal. I believe this was the first one that was done out of our GOLT program. It was a $600,000 allocation back in 2019. Basically, under this deal, there were 92 units that, there were covenants that 92 units be provided affordably for 20 years. This was kind of an unusual agreement. We don't really do this since, and I'm not sure we would do this ever again in the future, but that's probably a policy call. But it had the ability that they could sell this property and transfer those affordability requirements to the new properties. So just to be clear, they already had that right in that previous agreement. What this amendment was doing was adding some things to ensure that folks who are there that are in good standing, that they would have to continue to provide the affordable rents to those folks while they're going out and purchasing the new properties to have the requirements transferred to those properties. So that's really what this amendment was doing and providing some protections for that. But Mark Gillette is here if there's additional questions or any other questions you want.
And I think too, we were trying to, in partnership with the Housing Authority, is like there's a timeline on this as well, and we didn't want that timeline as that transfer of property that was allowed in the contract occurs, or that transfer to the other property, that clock keeps ticking and the affordable units then in the new property aren't available. So we just pause the clock to restart it when the new units are available.
Yeah, it provides the maximum amount of affordability period.
Right.
So it doesn't allow some of that to expire, between the sale of the old property and the purchase of the new one. So that's also the other piece of that amendment.
Thank you. My concern, and I'm wondering if you all might be able to address this for me, and I already brought it up in an email over the weekend, so this isn't the first time I learned about this from the agenda, and thank you, Joanna, for responding. So my follow-up concern is NonDoc reached out to me about in Tulsa how a similar situation happened and some of the selling of the properties to different operators found where residents who moved into those new properties that the new operators over time had a tendency to stop honoring the initial affordability agreements. And so suddenly you had very low income residents living in these transferred properties in terms of ownership or literally physical spaces who now find themselves maybe priced out. And I'm worried about, I don't want to replicate that. So what are the protections that are in place? What protections could we put in place to make sure that we're not displacing people and making it difficult for them to afford where they live?
Good morning. My name is Mark Gillett. I'm the Executive Director at the Oklahoma City Housing Authority. That business address is 1700 Northeast 4th Street. Councilman, we're not Tulsa. Sometimes I like what Tulsa does. Sometimes I'm jealous of Tulsa. Sometimes I'm not jealous of Tulsa. Tulsa, we didn't do that. So in selling Yorktown, Mount Vernon became Yorktown when we renamed it. Now we want to sell Yorktown. That affordability clause does not remain at Yorktown. We are asking the Economic Development Trust to transfer that affordability clause to other properties. And so we have spoken at council and with all of you about a property on 122nd Street called Dorset Place that will be new affordable housing in Oklahoma City. And we've also talked about the Motel 6 property, Vita Nova, that will be new affordable housing in Oklahoma City. So we are transferring the affordability from Yorktown to Dorset Place and Vita Nova. The people still live there. So what happens in that question? And I think that's your main question. So we have an agreement with the buyer to allow the residents that are there currently that are in good standing. What does good standing means? It means they pay their rent. They don't participate in wrongful activities. They honor their lease. So the folk that are in good standing are allowed to stay for the remaining term of their lease at the current rent cost. Some of those, that's a month. Some of those, that's a whole year. We then were concerned about what's going to happen if Yorktown rents start to rise. And so the Board of Commissioners at the Oklahoma City Housing Authority passed what we call a preference. A preference means an individual can move to the top of the wait list. They are the top new renter. And so public housing authority properties where we do have space, the residents at Yorktown and any other CEC property that we ever sell in the future will have a preference to move into our public housing authority property if they so choose. It's their choice, but that would be their affordability choice going forward. Does that make sense?
Yes. Follow-up. So if they're moving, let's follow that through. If they find themselves moving to a new place, like, that is good, except I think sometimes people need to live kind of close to where they were already living for all kinds of reasons, maybe their employment, that sort of stuff. How likely would that be for some of these folks? Like, what are the folks' options who are living in this current place to find access to housing through us, through you all, that's not, suddenly miles away from where they've been living?
So we do own property all over Oklahoma City, both in what we contiguous units, apartment complexes, and then we also own 600-ish scattered site houses around Oklahoma City as well. Sometimes folk have to move to a new location. I mean, a new area of town. Yeah, that's true.
And then what is our communication plan to these residents to let them know?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we don't want to tell them too quickly because we want the new owner to have the benefit of having those renters live in those apartments today. Sometimes people get a little nervous if they see the letter from the management company, we're going to sell. And so you don't send that letter to maybe a week before you know the closing date is going to occur. So we'll notify them of the change in management, and we'll notify them that if they are in good standing, they can stay same rent, finish out your lease. And then when that next step happens, when in the future, if the rent goes up, then we will work with the owners to provide the tenant a letter, a voucher, kind of a statement that says, bring this to the housing authority and you get preference to move in.
And then just my final question, would you remind us again why we're selling the property?
Sure. So we bought Yorktown as an experiment to try to have a non-subsidized affordable housing property in Oklahoma City, meaning that it doesn't have Section 8 at it, meaning that it doesn't have public housing subsidy at it either. We bought the property, did all of our due diligence, everything was going well, and then the sewer fell apart. And that sewer cost ate through our reserves, and so we were not able to maintain the property at a standard that we wanted to maintain. So occupancy at Yorktown's been an issue. 92-ish units, and there are 60-ish 60 apartments that are being occupied today. We had an individual, without us soliciting a sale, they came to us and said, hey, we want to buy Yorktown. It was a really good deal for us, paid the loans off, made the Housing Authority whole back to their commitments that they had made to Yorktown. Plus, it then allows us to be more strategic with some of the other properties that we're talking about now, Dorset Place, Vita Nova, Creston Park, Oak Grove, Will Rogers, and The Choice. It was a wise business decision.
Will you all be reporting back to us on just where we are, what you've learned once, I'm guessing, I'd like to at least a year from now, because I'm guessing the leases are about a year at most. So the most that someone could stay in this place over a year would be about a year?
That's what their current lease would be.
Right.
They could sign a new lease.
I just want to have an update on how many folk have left and this sort of, where they're going, access. I have concerns. I like us better than Tulsa, no offense to their people, and I just don't want to repeat some of their mistakes. So I'll see you next February.
You'll see us a lot more before then, Councilman. You know that.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, we are at page 11 of the agenda under item 10, the concurrence docket. And once again, we can take all 9 items with one vote. We have a motion and a second. It passes. Great. We'll now move on to page 12 of the agenda, item 11, items for individual consideration. My ward has 3 items on the agenda today, and I've asked Bradley if he would take care of those. The first one is 11A, which involves an amendment to the master design plan, and it also deals with PUD 2026, a planned unit development. So I know that there are at least 2 people that want to speak. One is David Box, and the other is Kelly Work. So David, you want to lead off, and then Kelly, will you follow, if that's okay?
Good morning. David Box, 525 Northwest 11th Street. So this is a PUD that Mr. Work and my office spent a lot of time negotiating, and are happy to report that as of, I believe, Friday, late afternoon, we have come to a resolution that will allow us to move forward with the majority of the protests going away, and the folks that are most impacted have specifically withdrawn their protests. So I do need to note that for your agenda, we need to strike the Amendment 1, and I'm going to read an amendment that needs to replace that, which represents the PUD revisions that both Mr. Work has signed off on and have been transmitted to staff. So the revisions are amendment to the master design statement modifying section 8.1 to prohibit administrative amendments, section 9.0 to prohibit administrative amendment, section 9.2 regarding landscaping regulations, section 9.3 regarding lighting regulations, add section 9.3.1 regarding exterior lighting standards, section 9.8 regarding access regulations, section 9.13 regarding height regulations, section 9.17 regarding specific plan requirements, building orientation, and balconies, section 11 to revise Exhibit B and add Exhibit D, tree varieties.
Okay. Amy, who is the knows all, and she believes that as far as A1 is concerned, we should withdraw that and then submit a new A1 amendment to the master design, which you just read into the record, and then also attach that as a part of the record.
Sure.
Okay.
And staff has, all of the amendments I just referenced, staff has the revised PUD that has the details of all of those amendments.
Okay. Anything else?
When we make the motion, if you can just say the amendment dated February 7th, 2025, please.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Box?
No, sir, unless there are questions.
Mr. Work? How are you today?
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Vice Mayor and members of the council. My name is Kelly Work. My address is 105 North Hudson, Suite 304, and I am here today to confirm the agreement that Mr. Box just referenced. I represent the Mulholland Homeowners Association, which is the association for the Mulholland neighborhood, which is to the southeast there, east across Pennsylvania. I also represent the Valhalla LLC, which is the owner of the property that is directly east across Pennsylvania. And then also I represent the Cross Creek Farm LLC, which is the 20-acre tract that is immediately adjacent to the west of the subject property. So after much discussion, we did reach an agreement on the revised terms of the PUD, and those are reflected, as has already been mentioned, in the February 7th revised master design statement and exhibits that were submitted on Friday last week. So with those amendments and with your approval anticipated, we have withdrawn, that is the Mulholland Homeowners Association, Valhalla LLC, and the Cross Creek Farm, our protests as of Friday. And so with that, based on that agreement and with those modifications, as I mentioned, we've withdrawn our protest and we're ready for the council to proceed with its action. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I would just tell the council that Kelly and David and members of the community all came together and worked really hard to come up with a solution, and that's my favorite thing, where we can work something out and move forward. Bruce Lawrence is in the audience, and we had several phone conversations and text, and I appreciate his input and his help with this project. And so I'll turn it over to you, Bradley, at this time.
So do we need to withdraw the amendment, or are we just going to replace? Do we have to vote separately is what I'm asking.
Yeah, you need to make a motion to approve the amended MDS dated February 7th, 2025.
So I'll make a motion to approve the amendment dated February 7th, 2025.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. It passes. We now move to item 11A2, which is the actual PUD 2026. Bradley?
And I'll move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. It passes. Thank you, everyone. Let's now move on to item 11. No, 11B was withdrawn. That's Todd and your ward. So we now move on to item 11C, which again, Bradley, you're back on stage.
Is anyone signed up to speak?
No one.
So subject to the summary of technical evaluations, I'll move for approval.
Please vote. It passes. We're now at item 11AD, which is in Ward 2. James?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Would the applicant's representatives or the applicant, whomever, would like to speak on this? I have some thoughts, but I'd like to hear from them first.
Thank you.
Hello.
Morning. My name's Rob Elliott with Elliott Architects, so we're at 900 Northwest 6th Street. This is an item that we were helping the owner of a dispensary facility at this address, 3420 North May. He also had an extraction license for the facility, and when he was making some improvements regarding his dispensary, I believe, he found that the property was not zoned correctly for the extraction operation. He had, and this goes back to the early years of OMMA and certificate of compliance and medical marijuana. There's some confusion. He was actually approved by the city for both operations. He had a certificate of occupancy for each of his operations at this address in the early years. But when we were processing another permit for him, there was confusion of the zoning. So the zoning for his extraction operation was more of an industrial type, and we submitted the SPUD application to make his zoning classification match his actual operation.
Thank you. Yes, I spoke with staff on Friday when I was reviewing this item, and I would like to defer this for 2 weeks because I would like to go tour this facility and see this particular, I think you call it extraction work, is that
Yes.
right? I just want to see it for myself. You know, there's a neighborhood right behind there, and I know no one came and spoke, but I'm very much someone of the belief that sometimes people don't understand what they've gotten in the mail and that how it might affect them. So I just want to make sure as their elected representative, I understand what's going on. So if people have questions, I'm able to respond to them in the future. And I bring this up because I can tell you right now, I absolutely know neighbors who have reached out to me concerned about just May Avenue generally when it comes to medical marijuana. And so I just want to make sure that there was some due diligence here. So 2 weeks, sir?
You're fine with 2/25/25?
That'd be great. Thank you,
Great,
Mark.
great. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate your understanding.
I'll entertain a motion for a deferral of this item till February 25th, 2025. It passes. Now, Craig, I can't read my handwriting. Is E still on?
Yes.
Okay. We're now at item 11E, which is in Ward 4.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Has anyone signed up to speak? All right, this is just kind of really a small commercial expansion on 5 acres out at 59th and Luther, next to an existing area. So with that, I'll go ahead and move for its approval.
Great, we have a motion. And a second. Please vote. It passes. We're now on page 13 of the agenda, item 11F, which is an ordinance on final hearing, rezoning 4608 Northwestern Avenue to SPUD 1691. Ward 2?
Mr. Box, is this you? I thought so. If you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about this, and I missed you last night. I was teaching till late, but I did appreciate your text outreach. I teach till 7:15 on Mondays and Wednesday evenings. So.
Sure. David Box, 525 Northwest 11th. So this is an SPUD right along Western Avenue. It's a bit odd in that the current SPUD that governs the site only allows uses that would allow for an automotive body shop. Which, if you're familiar with Western Avenue, that's kind of out of place. Western Avenue has restaurants and bars and retail. I'm not sure of the origins of the current SPUD, but we filed the SPUD. We became aware of, I'm not going to say protest, but neighborhood questions. So we had a neighborhood meeting before the Planning Commission, made a handful of changes to the SPUD to the point where they were then satisfied and no one appeared at the Planning Commission. So the general goal is to allow for uses that are more consistent with what you would expect to see along Western Avenue, rather than only allowing an automotive body shop. So with those changes, like I said, protests went away, we agreed to all the TEs, and it was recommended for approval unanimously by Planning Commission.
Thanks for that backstory, and thanks again for Thanks for that backstory, and thanks again for reaching out to me yesterday evening, and I'll join you all in moving for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Thank you.
It passes. We now find ourselves at item 11G, which is in Ward 3. Barbara, a couple of people have signed up to speak. Would you like me to call them up first, or?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's hear from the...
Okay. I think it's, I'm having trouble reading the handwriting, but I think it's Harry Black. Is the Harry Black here, please? Harry, would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Vice Mayor and Councilman Stonecipher and City Manager Craig Freeman. Good morning, council persons and staff. My name is Harry Black. I am serve on the boards of Windsor District and Windsor Hills Neighborhood Association. Several familiar faces. I also served for a time on the Maps 4 Citizens Advisory Board until our district lines changed and the very capable and helpful Ward 2 person wanted to stay, imagine that, and so I had to rotate off. But I'm here today because of concern for the medical marijuana dispensary. The property being considered, I notice it's not on the map, so let me just paint a picture. That map is not on the screen. So a little picture of what this looks like. There is some. To the south, adjacent to this property, is an apartment. To the east, across Meridian, is a city park. To the west, behind the property, is a large neighborhood. And then to the north is a church, Rios de Agua Viva. The pastor, Pastor Jairo Carmona came. He and several of his members were able to attend the Planning Commission meeting, but only Pastor was able to be here today to help us oppose this project. As the Planning Commission concluded, this is not a business district. This is a house that was rezoned years ago, consistent with the properties in the neighborhood, to be a florist shop. And now it's being asked to move further into the realm of commercial property. If the other commercial properties owned by RizViz, properties that we find at 1145 North Pennsylvania and 2545 Southwest 59th Street, if there are any indication of the way the property will look, what the architecture of the dispensary will be, then it certainly will not be a positive addition to the neighborhood or our community, consistent with
30 seconds remaining.
the zoning ideals within our city. I also want to point out that according to Google Maps, there are 16 other dispensaries within 2 miles. There are 10 dispensaries within 1.5 miles, and there's one medical marijuana dispensary within 0.2 miles, 5 minutes walking distance from this. So there is certainly adequate access to medical marijuana for the residents of that community without this one being added on. I would appreciate and certainly urge the City Council to uphold the recommendation of the Planning Commission and deny this request for rezoning. Any questions, anything you want to ask me about that? And my wife will not believe that I finished under my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Black.
We next have a request to be heard by, I think it's Robin Jones. Hi, Robin. Can you state your full name and your home address?
Sure. Robin Jones, 1508 North Markwell Place.
Thank you.
And I am the director of the West 10 and the Windsor District, so I'm here representing both residents, businesses, and churches, community groups. And I have a letter from the Windsor District Board pretty much echoing what I'm getting ready to say. And as Harry mentioned, the Oklahoma City Planning Commission unanimously denied this rezoning for reasons relative to the retail location being mid-block. But I want to bring up two things, and that is that several of these SPUD propositions, so to speak, are really buying up these small houses that are in neighborhoods and were meant to be affiliated with neighborhoods, and that it's really beholden to us to protect our neighborhoods, especially from robust businesses that might not be family friendly, whatever they might be. And so many of these converted homes become businesses that are not nurturing to a neighborhood. We would like to ask the city, City Council, to uphold what City Planning Commission said, supported, to reject the rezoning, to halt the practices of allowing so many of these dispensaries to buy these small residential homes for flipping towards medical marijuana, but also just to keep and reinstate the current zoning regulations that we already have. So, are there any questions?
Robin, thanks so much.
Thank you. Any others?
I guess the only thing I would do, just to make the record perfectly clear, this is an ordinance on final hearing that's recommended for denial.
That's correct.
And it requires 5 affirmative votes for that denial.
Understood. Having heard everyone that has signed up to speak and having reviewed the application ahead of this meeting and visited with others who are not able to be here today. First, Pastor, thank you for representing your congregation. Mr. Black, thank you for your continued service to the community, and Mrs. Jones, you as well. We've had an opportunity to visit on a number of different issues over the last several years, and so I am confident in their representation of the businesses and the residents in the community in addition to my own. So with that, I'm not inclined to change the direction that this has been heading with staff's recommendation for denial, Planning Commission's recommendation for denial, and the residents' lack of interest in it as well. So I'm gonna move for denial.
So if you vote yes, you're voting for denial.
Denial, that's right. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
It is denied. All right, let's move on to item 11H. And that is an ordinance on final hearing, establishing 45-degree angle parking around on the east side of North Broadway Avenue. And we have Tim Strange signed up to speak, I think, on this. Am I right?
Good morning, Tim Strange, 1214 Hudson. Good morning, Mr. Manager,
Good
Vice
morning,
Mayor, and
Tim.
Council. Thank you. This is on Alley North, 13th and Broadway. If you've been by the site lately, you will see that we're grading for our interior street, and things are moving along very swiftly. This will allow us to do the 45-degree angled on-street parking. Appreciate your consideration, especially under emergency. Thank you.
I will move for approval.
We have a motion. And now a second. Please vote.
Also asking for the emergency.
Okay.
And then I will move for the emergency as well.
Okay, it passes, and then it's my understanding. Okay, did she? I didn't hear her. I'm sorry. Sorry. So we're moving for an emergency. Maybe. Motion is second. Please vote. The emergency passes. We now find ourselves at 11I, which is an ordinance on final hearing establishing reserved parking for the physically disabled on the east side of North Broadway Avenue.
I will move for approval.
Please vote. It passes. Again, we need the emergency.
I'll move for emergency.
Thank you. Please vote. The emergency passes. We now are on item 11J, which is an ordinance on final hearing, changing 1-hour time limited parking to 2-hour time limited parking on the north side of North Broadway Circle. Ward 6.
I'll move for approval.
Motion and a second. Please vote. It passes. Do we need an emergency with this or not? Okay. So we are now on item, is it K? Yes. And that is an ordinance on final hearing, establishing 2-hour limited parking on the south side of Northwest 11th Street. Ward 6.
I will move for approval.
Please vote. It passes. We're now on item 11L at page 13, which is an ordinance on final hearing, establishing 2-hour time-limited parking on the west side of North Broadway Avenue.
I will move for approval.
Motion is second. Please vote. It passes. And then we have item 11M, which is an ordinance on final hearing, establishing a, can you read that? Establishing.
No parking.
No parking anytime restriction on the west side of North Andalusia Drive. Ward 8. So Bradley, could you help me with that one?
I'll move for approval.
Thank you. Please cast your vote. It passes. We now find ourselves at page 14 of the agenda, item, 11N was struck? Okay. So we will move on to item 11O, which is a public hearing regarding dilapidated structures, as here listed at A through E.
No one signed up to speak.
If no one has signed up to speak, we will move to item 1102, which is the resolution declaring the structures are dilapidated. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. It passes. We'll now move to 11P, which is a public hearing regarding unsecured structures.
And no one signed up.
Seeing no one signed up, we will move to item P, 11P2, which is a resolution declaring the structures are unsecured. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. It passes. We now find ourselves at page 15, 11Q, which is a public hearing regarding abandoned buildings.
No one has signed up.
So no one has signed up, so we'll move to 11Q2, which is the resolution declaring the buildings are abandoned. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. It passes. We're now at item 11R, which is a public hearing regarding a resolution authorizing acceptance of the joint award for the 2024 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant in the amount of $433,695.
Yes, this item is like, it's a typical grant that normally would be on the consent docket, but requires a public hearing. This is a grant that we've received since 2005. This is actually a grant that's shared between Oklahoma City, the cities of Edmond, Del City, Midwest City, and then Oklahoma County all get a portion of it to use for supporting public safety purposes and police purposes. For this year's grant, the city will be using that to continue the crime analyst program, and it funds 4 crime analyst positions. And so we just wanted to share that information. If you have any other questions, we can answer those, but just so that we could have the information for the public hearing.
Has anyone signed up to speak at the public hearing?
No, they haven't.
So then we will move to item 11R2, which is accepting the resolution. Please vote. It passes 6-1. We're now at item 11S, which is a joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority authorizing the Information Technology Director to execute and authorize statements of work, change orders, and other administrative forms. This is something we previously discussed.
On the MFA, that's right.
Yes. So we would entertain a motion and a second for item 11S at this time. It passes. We're now at item 11T, claims recommended for approval. There is only one claim, and it's out of Ward 3. I'd entertain a motion. It passes. We are now at comments from council. Ward 1.
None today, sir. Thank you.
Ward 2. Ward 3. Ward 4. Ward 5.
I can't believe I'm the first and only one to talk so far. Turn your attention to the screen. Just in case you ever wondered what $1 billion looked like. Not me. We got the opportunity to tour the Atoka pipeline site last week. Oh, mercy. And I just wanted you to see what was going on. This is pretty impressive. I wish. We don't need to add any more cost to this project. So big thanks to excuse me, Chris for putting this together, and Andrew for driving us around, and Josh for keeping us all company, but big thanks to Byron for giving us some of his homemade honey. The project manager down there, it was a lot of fun. But imagine 10,000 pieces of pipe, 50 foot long, individually coming up from Houston, per truck, one pipe per truck. So by the time this is all said and done, they're burying about 600 feet of this a day, but by the time it's all said and done, they'll have 112 miles, 125 miles to go from here to there. And it's just fascinating to watch the ballet that is these $500,000 machines dancing with each other. It's a logistical nightmare, because imagine all the gravel and all the dirt and all the stuff you have to have at each individual mile set up for you're not waiting on it to get there. So it's really not about burying the pipe, it's about getting all the materials on site. So anyway, thanks for the tour. I also want to thank Justin and Ken from the planning department because they snagged us $975,000 in an ACOG grant for public transit. And I also want to thank Aubrey and Jamie and Debbie and Whitney because last Thursday we had the faith leaders of Ward 5 gather at the South Chamber and they got a preview to the Key to Home program, and I think it was very helpful for the faith leaders to understand where we're headed. They had lots of questions and it was very interactive and the pizza was good. So Whitney put in all the work, but thank you. That's it.
Ward 6? Ward 7?
Yes. Certainly would like to invite everyone to participate in Black History Month. There are several events that are happening all over the city, in particular Ward 7, so would invite that. But I just want to say hello to everybody that I didn't have much on the agenda. I'm just glad to be here today.
That's a good day. I promised Debbie Martin that I would make an announcement that applications are now available for the Oklahoma City's Youth Council. That's going to run from today through March 28th. You can apply. The Youth Council is a wonderful experience, and you can go to okc.gov and get more information about the Oklahoma City Youth Council program. The last thing I'd like to say is, before we hear from citizens to be heard, is please, please get out and vote today. This is what makes our country great, and when you vote and participate, that is meaningful. So thank you. We're now at item 13, citizens to be heard. We have Ronnie Kirk. Hello, Ronnie, how are you today?
My name is Ronnie Kirk. My address is 2328 Missouri. In honor of Black History Month, we made history the first of this month. This is some of the information the Oklahoma History Museum have. Now, throughout the years, I bought y'all, every time I come to city council meeting, I'd bring y'all the information. The information is in a booklet. Ms. Jorbert, you wasn't born yet. Ms. Barbara, you wasn't born yet either. Mr. Cooper, you wasn't born. The rest of y'all were just teenagers. Back in 1990, but let me take you a little further back. Back in the 70s, Emmett Till, but years before Emmett Till, there were black people being hung just for looking in the eyes of a white person. Emmett Till was killed, murdered, for just bumping into a white woman. A few years after that, 1990, a lot of things going on. You know, I started Juneteenth in Oklahoma. All the documents are here, all the city permits. I got right here all the city permits and all this information, you know. And when George Floyd, he was also, that was in 71. He was killed just for hanging outside, panhandling. In Oklahoma, you get a panhandler's license back then for $5. The Tulsa race ride. You know, I started all this Juneteenth in Oklahoma, just 100 miles from Tulsa. I started right here, been doing it ever since. So I submitted all the information to the Oklahoma History Museum. And I bought a copy here for the mayor. He's not here today, but this is his copy. There was a judge that gave me 600 armbands that glow in the dark for homeless. I got a copy for him. Also, I got a copy for a former councilwoman, Miss Nikki Neese. I got a copy for her today. And y'all have done so much to keep the city going, making it beautiful for us to go further into the future. And I want to say thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ronnie. Ronnie, we appreciate you. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Up next on Citizens to be Heard is Mr. Steve Hunt. How are you, Steve?
Hello.
Would
All
you
right, I
state
think
your
this
name and
is-
address, please, for the record?
I think this is about the third time I've come out of citizen presentation retirement. So I have a new address, 2825 Northwest 57th, Ward James. I hope you're not too thrilled about that. But 2 months ago, I came up here with, was going to have a pretty serious talk with you all about probably late summer. Mayor Holt put me on a watch list, and the cops have been following me around when I come up here. I think this was after he spoke at the bombing memorial, and you know, it was on the topic of the importance of sitting down and speaking with people. And the irony of that was that despite the fact that I'm in the final paragraph of David Holt's book, Big League City, I'm in it like 3 times. We've had back and forth for years. He's never once sat down with me, and I pointed out how disgraceful it was for him to, you know, go to the bombing memorial and use the suffering and the martyrdom of those folks there for his image to give a talk like that. Well, after that, I started noticing that whenever I came up here, the police officers would follow me up. And I think the second or third time I conversed with one of them, and he's like, yeah, we're supposed to follow you. I don't like it. You know, when I ran against Mick Cornett, a lot of the officers, you know, supported me. And so I do have a good relationship with them. My Supreme Court lawyer, Jay Barnett, when Mayor Holt changed the rules illegally, was an ex-OKCPD lieutenant. So he has been involved in this development. And, you know, it was interesting to me when I came 2 months ago, Mayor Holt had appointed J.B. Williams to a position. The irony of that is that J.B. multiple times has threatened me and friends with violence. And
black woman in the position that she's in. She don't answer to you, motherfucker.
So what you mean?
And there's nothing, hold on, and shit you can say to justify that shit. And if you was in front of me right now, I would fuck you up. Oh, God.
So there's Dave's friend, J.B. Williams, threatening me with violence. And I'm the one that's followed by cops here.
30 seconds.
There's a lot more to this. And what I would like to ask you all, everyone, Jo Beth, if you don't mind for a second, I would ask that you could advocate for me, for them to stop following me, because it's had a real effect. I mean, I know that y'all know me, and you know that sometimes I don't go about things right, but to utilize these officers to intimidate me, and to go to the bombing memorial and talk about how important it is to sit down with people when numerous times over the past 15 years I've asked to sit down with him and he never has. So, yeah, just if you all could find it in yourselves to ask them to just stop doing that, because I'm not a threat. So,
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Well, with that, I think we're at my favorite number, 14. We are adjourned.